like most gun people, I was born interested in guns and firearms. Started out with little BB guns and 22s, and then you get into adulthood, which I think my first firearm that I purchased was a .45 pistol, and carried that ever since I was legally able and hadn't put it down yet. But you know, you get into competitions. You know, go from handgun to machine gun to high-powered rifle. And in the sport of all of this, you know, you keep wanting the next best firearm and the most powerful firearm for me. And so I wanted a 50 caliber. And of course, there was no commercially available 50 caliber rifle. You ended up having to just make your own, and not being a great admirer of slow bolt action rifles, I wanted a semi-automatic. And so at the age of 28, I just decided that I would do one or make one myself. My youthful years, it was one of those things that I didn't know I couldn't do it, and so it just got out there and did it. I had no experience in manufacturing or engineering. I was actually a photographer, a job that I had in high school. And so my photography studio downtown contained a little short range that we had built a little bullet trap at the end of it. So at nighttime we'd close the photography studio, and me and a few other fellow policemen and things like that would come down and fire the handguns down the hallway and sweep it up before next morning's business. So anyway, on photographing a boat for the Ramo Company one December one day in 1982, this was a gunboat that the Ramo Company in Nashville, who makes the 50 caliber Browning machine guns, I really got interested in that 50 cal, and decided that, well, I was talking to Pony Maples, and I said, you know, if I went back and designed a 50 caliber rifle, would you guys be interested in making it? And of course, what does a grown man tell a 28-year-old kid? Said, sure, kid, you know, we can do that. And so I took it seriously, went back and started sketching out things in 3 dimension as an artist would, and after a couple of months, I had a design based on a recoil-operated recoiling barrel 50 cal design, and I've got this rifle in here in the R&D room. It's heavy, and it looks like it's something that came in off of the Civil War, but anyway, the gun worked. I found a guy with a machine shop. Excuse me, I got ahead of myself. Found a one-bay garage, a machine shop that would put up with me, and we sat there and worked in the evening hours from 5 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night, whittling on the gun. And 4 months later, we had a little gun that was shooting, kind of shooting. It told me everything that I had needed to correct to go to generation number 2. And so we started gen number 2. Went back to the Ramo Company, showed them my gun that shot. You know, things didn't work out, so I just decided to take out an ad in Shotgun News and go to the Houston Gun Show and carry it here and carry it there. And after a while, I had people that were wanting to, said, hey, if you make another one, I'd like one of those. So with a little help from the bank, I made a batch of 30 rifles, which was quite difficult to do. I had thought that I could make all these guns for $1,000, and I was going to make $1,000 profit on them and put a $300 fudge factor, so I advertised the gun for $2,300. It took me about 9 months to get that batch of guns out, and when it all said and done, those guns cost me $8,000, you know, so I was a little in the hole. I went back, borrowed a little more money, made another batch of 30, raised the price to $3,700, sold those for $3,700, and I was very proud of myself that I made those guns for $6,000 a piece. So anyway, this kept up. We were getting a little closer each time. So finally, it started to work, and then I started attracting some military applications for it. You know, now this is a thing that the anti-gunners have gotten into, that this was a gun designed for the military that has fallen in the hands of civilians. It wasn't that way at all. It was a gun for sportsmen, as my hobby, and sold to sportsmen, paid for out of sportsmen's pockets, and the military found application in it. So actually our government and 50 other governments found the benefit of the relationship between the civilian and the government industries, where again government is able to use something that the civilian has invented. And that's the way many of our guns and much of our equipment has found its way, you know, to the into government service. So anyway, around 89, I had a foreign government that was interested in Sweden, actually, that was interested in 100 guns, and we built those, sold those, and when Desert Storm broke out, there was enough of our guns in the hands of the U.S. military, one here, two there, that they had been working with and training on and things like that. And so when Desert Storm broke out, our troops knew what to do. And so they started placing orders for them under emergency orders to go to the front. The Marine Corps officially adopted it then. The U.S. Army still was a little skeptical. So over the next 10 or so years, the U.S. Army did tests on my gun and then anybody else that could submit for a competitive trial. And so after a lot of competition and everything, they selected the best gun. And so the Barrett 82A1 became adopted as the M107. And so having the big Army as a customer was very nice. They gave us a very substantial order and entrenched the Barrett rifle into history from now and forever. And so it's been a great honor and a great privilege to be able to build equipment for the sons and daughters of America to be able to fight wars with, and it's been an honor. And we've had a lot of troops that have found great creative ways that this rifle could serve, and that's just what happens when you give a good piece of equipment to a good soldier. They figure out fantastic ways of working with it, and that's what's happened with our rifle. And so in 2005, we were awarded the top 10 invention from the U.S. Army, where it never has a rifle been on that list before. It's actually asking our soldiers what piece of equipment enabled you to get your job done, you know. And we were in there with quite some real fantastic other pieces of equipment, like the up armor for the Humvee and different coagulation medicines for bandages and things like that. And here we have the Barrett M107, and which has done quite well in the war against terror. And so in ceremonies in Washington, D.C., we were awarded the recognition of that. And it's like I said, it's been a true American story from what you can do with living in America.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the troops that are watching this?
Well, you know, just like what I was talking about before, such an honor to be playing such an important role. And when I get to speak to the troops and they tell me some of the stories that they have lived with our rifle, and some of them brings tears to your eyes on both sides, and it's very difficult to put it in words. It's one of those things that you can't phrase that way. You got to live it. But again, what an honor. There's only been 4 people in the last 100 years that fielded a rifle for the troops. The individuals, you know, like John Browning, John Garand, Gene Stoner, Ronnie Barrett. There's some other guns that were made by committee, you know, and I guess being a part of a committee is a very honorable thing too. But to have done it all, you know, we were one of the only little small companies that designed the gun, or I designed the gun, manufactured the gun, marketed the gun, and got it out, you know, where many of the other designers designed the gun, turned it over to another large establishment to get those things done. So it's really been something.